Nurses of psych wards, what did a patient do that left you speechless? This was actually in a state hospital that is part of the prison system for mentally ill offenders. Patient asked for Vaseline, which is fine, they can have Vaseline, whatever. But this patient was given a whole tub, so of course he stripped completely naked, covered himself in Vaseline, and ran. It was a secure unit, and he didn't escape, but we couldn't get him back into his cell shift because he was too f***ing slippery. No more tubs. I'm a tech at a psych hospital, but I start nursing school in August, so I hope this counts. We had a very tall, heavy-set man who swung at a nurse and a fellow tech when they asked him to not stand naked in the door and flash the whole unit, so we put him in a hold and escorted him to the seclusion room. From there he tried to strangle himself with his underwear. He had them on his head like a bandana, so we opened the door and took those away. Then he peed all over the floor, did push-ups, and every time he came down he would slurp it up. Eventually he got bored of that and began writing on the wall in his pee, and then masturbated onto the door and said it would be better if he could flap my dead corpse. Eventually his IMB-52 kicked in and he contacted for safety good behavior, so we opened the door again, and he bit me on the hand and drew blood. From there I got permission to not be involved in the code and appear swap me out. I'm assaulted on a weekly basis, and we aren't even an acute care facility. I'm very excited to go PRN in August. $15.38 per hour is not worth it. I was a CNA for about 4 years, and the saddest ever was my client resident constantly thought I was her daughter. She went to Harvard and was an extremely brilliant lady in her time. She was non-verbal, but every time I walked into her room she would exclaim, "Elizabeth, you came." I loved this lady so much. She would only eat when I fed her. She was extremely combative with everyone but me. I ended up quitting my job there but visited her every single day. To the point that her family kind of accepted me as their family. I finally found out that Elizabeth took her own life at 21, and the fact that she thought I was her gave her extreme joy. I never corrected her, and I like to think I gave her peace when she passed holding my hand. She was an amazing lady and I miss her to this day. This might not fit perfect, but I love this story. How about in an inpatient addiction clinic? The first one that comes to mind was something I witnessed between a patient and another floor tech. We had a man who was in serious detox. Drug of choice was meth. He was throwing a huge tantrum, not uncommon in DTs. People will do just about anything to get a fix. We weren't a locked facility, so it wasn't like he was stuck there. He genuinely wanted help. That's why he stuck around, and we were there to listen and help him through the shakes, hallucinations, and other symptoms. He was slamming his fists on the desk at this point, and he had started just yelling, "I just want some fucking ice," slang for crystal meth. Well, the tech with me was inexperienced, although much older than me, and while I talked to him and tried to calm him down, she went back to our staff kitchen and got him a glass of ice. Like frozen water. She brought it out to him and put it in his hand like, problem solved, and the guys just froze with confusion, staring at it. The patient and I both realized at the same time she thought he wanted ice, and we just started at each other and started laughing. He was in for a rough couple of days, but I've never seen someone jump from near psychotic episode to giggling so fast. Prison guard here. Guy cut his scrotum open to let people know he was serious. Don't know about what. Guy 2. Cut off a butt cheek, or a big part of, and threw it at me as I tried to stop him. Guy 3. Punched a wall 3 times really hard, bloody knuckles, and told me he punched the devil cause he was telling him to stab me, but I'm cool, so he told the devil to flap off. Guy 4. Pretended to drown himself in a toilet, basically splashed pee on his face and rolled around crying. Guy 5. Had sex with a window air vent and was compliant yet confused when I asked him to stop. Those were the days. Guy 3. Just a homie, if we're being honest. When I was in nursing school I had a clinical in the state-funded psych ward downtown. I was assigned to sit with this one girl to monitor her behavior. She spent about 30 minutes doing nothing but eating pudding cups with a plastic spoon. She ate like 6 of them in half an hour. Then out of nowhere she very calmly licked her spoon completely clean and pulled her shirt sleeve up before shoving the entire spoon into an incision in her arm near her bicep, then very calmly said, "Ops." The nurses that worked there didn't believe me. They kept saying I was making it up and that I couldn't have seen what I saw. Only later on, like 4 hours later, it was a 12-hour clinical, the orderly noticed the girl had some blood on her shirt. He took her into her room to change her clothes and noticed that an incision on her arm had hissed and had been bleeding. Then eventually agreed to send her to the hospital for testing. The X-ray showed the entire spoon, sucked into the fat of her upper arm, through an incision where they'd removed a birth control implant in the week before. Apparently the girl had slowly been picking at the sutures and opening it bit by bit until it was deep enough to fit an entire plastic spoon. The girl admitted that the ops was because it had gotten sucked in and couldn't be pulled out, not because she stuck a spoon in her arm. Totally bizarre. Years ago, I was a student nurse doing my psych rotation in a Catholic facility. The nuns still wore habits and the building was like something out of the Dark Ages. I'll skip talking about the line of patients waiting to undergo EC treatment in the basement and instead tell you about Maggie. She was a tragic case. She had been on lithium for years and it really kept her psychotic episodes in check until reached toxic levels and could no longer take it. One hot summer afternoon, we heard this banshee screaming coming from Maggie's room. We rushed in there to see what was going on. Entering the room, we are greeted by a scene I will never forget. This late 70s woman is standing on the window ledge, naked as a jaybird, screaming through the window screens at the nuns in the courtyard, "You fucking penguins are going to burn in hell." The poor sisters are scrambling to and fro trying to get away from the ranting mad woman's viscous verbal assault as we were trying desperately to pull her off the grating. I knew then and there that I would never become a psych nurse. We had a psych patient on our floor that wasn't really crazy, just really confused and unpleasant in general. One night I was mixing his drink with some thickener, and per usual he started yelling about me poisoning him. I explained what it was and that we're all here to help him, not hurt him, and he responds with, "I'm just going to die." His vitals were fine, he was alert, no red flags, and like I said, he was always pretty unpleasant so I didn't think much of it. Sure as shit, he coded an hour later and we never got him back. Edit. Coded is slang for code blue, which is what they call over intercom when someone stopped breathing, or their heart has stopped. Not a nurse, pharmacist. Had one of our clozapine patients miss a monthly meeting to discuss their medication. Called around, found out she was in the ICU having eaten 2 of her own fingers, then visited her mother for coffee, still bleeding. Had a friend tell me of another patient, made a cut in his thigh and reopened it regularly until the whole thing was a scar tissue cavern, by some miracle avoiding infection. Started using his meat pocket to hold pens and coins and anything he could collect in his ward. Nobody knew until a paper clip pierced the side and he finally wound up with an infection that took him to ICU where they found his stash. Probably the saddest was a resident I had a long time ago. This gentleman was a WW2 vet with Alzheimer's and dementia. Probably once or twice a month he would relive some battle he was in. He would literally run up the hallway and grab you and yell at you to get down behind the sandbags. He would then tell you take his Thompson because it was too heavy for him, he would just use his pistol. Then he would get up and run back down the hallway. This guy was old and seeing him run full sprint like that up and down the hallway during one of his episodes was surreal. I can't imagine having to constantly relive the worst moments of your life where you witnessed and survived the unspeakable horrors of war. In such a situation, would it be wrong to play along? We're sitting ducks here, Sarg. I'll take the submachine gun and cover the unit while you retreat to the cafeteria for some soft boiled eggs. We had a Giro psych floor. Crazy old people. One night while passing through, a little old lady popped her head out her doorway and said to me, "I could sure use the company of a good looking young man tonight." Sorry, I'm not that good looking. Quick as snot on a doorknob, she said that's okay. I can't see too well, I didn't join her, but her charisma was on point. I watched a guy try to remove rats from his rectum. Stated that his ex-girlfriend summoned them there. He ended up tearing his rectal walls to shreds. Not a nurse, but I was a patient in a psych ward. The ward was sectioned into 2 sides based on case severity. I was on the less severe side. One night, an incredibly tall, somewhat muscular man escaped his room on the severe side, got through a door that was supposed to be locked, got into the less severe side, and into my room. I woke up, sat up, and saw him standing in my doorway. He asked in a shaky voice if I was alright. I hesitantly said yes, to which he responded by getting a look of terrified horror and screamed, "I knew it. You can see them too. Don't let them get you," before he was dragged away screaming by security. If you want more of the best Reddit videos from this side of the universe, please subscribe.